Right, so let's just start off being honest because, honesty is the best policy. I don't feel very inspired to do this video today. I didn't even feel like recording this video. I was sitting there and I was trying to procrastinate because I was like, man, I've got to record this video and I've got no ideas about what I'm going to talk about. I don't feel inspired at all. So I thought I'm going to talk to you guys about what to do when you're not feeling inspired. Because guess what? I know that you as an artist, as a creative person, you've probably been in that space where you just didn't feel creative. Maybe you're at work, maybe you're an artist, maybe, I don't know, you're just doing something that you need to feel motivated to do and you just run out of steam. This can be anything from work to creativity. So I thought I'll talk about it. Like, how do we get inspired? How do you get into the space of being inspired? So I'm going to talk about 5 things that I think could really help you out to get inspired. If you're not feeling inspired, these are things that I use myself and just things that I've learned from my own experiences from my time as an artist, as a creative, as a singer, as a songwriter, and also as a painter. And I'm also going to give you an example from a few other artists as well who treat creativity basically like work. So let's dive right into it. Let's talk about it. Inspiration. How do you get into the zone? How do you feel inspired when you're not feeling inspired? How do you get into that mode? So the first thing that I would say is environment, right? The importance of environment is super, super key. Now, I spoke about the importance of environment with regards to becoming successful before. And if you haven't seen that video, then click on the link below here. I'm going to link that video here so you can check that out. It's a very good video on how to become productive and how to become successful just by managing your environment. This is one of the most important things that I could ever stress. Trust me, if your environment isn't set up for you to be productive, then trust me, you will not succeed. So I often talk about how your environment, you have an external environment and you have an internal environment. The internal environment is sometimes, up and down, right? That's our emotional state. That's our mental state. But I want to talk specifically now about our external environment, like the place that you live, because that's the thing that affects you the most. So I would say that if you came into my house and you looked at my house, I have very minimal kind of environment. I don't like things to be in my visual eye line too much because here's the thing, your mind and your vision, your eyesight, without you realizing it, you take things in without you necessarily wanting to take things in. So what can happen sometimes is that just by you looking at things, your subconscious is taking in information and you're actually using a part of your brain that requires you to have space for creativity without you necessarily wanting to use up that space. So imagine you have a basket and in this empty basket, you have things that you're going to be seeing and you're just taking things in, you're taking information in, you're listening to things in your ear pod, you're watching the news and you're listening to every kind of source of information. You're just being bombarded by many things and subconsciously you're just taking things and you're putting things in this basket, right? At the end of the day, you're going to find that you're going to be tired, not necessarily because you've been doing much, but just because you've been taking on so much information. So when I talk about, gearing up your environment, setting up your environment to be successful, a lot of the time it's about removing a lot of the distractions to create an environment that actually works for you. Now, I'm the kind of person who likes a minimalist environment. I don't like a lot of noise. Some people might feel like they need a lot of things to inspire them. They look at paintings and maybe they might look at some news or whatever the case it is to inspire them to create something. That may be you, right? But for me personally, my environment has to be empty. You might be different. You might need your environment to be, more inspirational. You might need certain art pieces on your wall. You might need a record player or some music that you might be playing in the background that can help you find inspiration. And we're actually going to talk about that as well. So the first thing that I'd say is make sure that your environment is set up for you to be creative. For me, it's a minimalist environment. It's taking away distractions. It's creating an environment where I know that by waking up, the first thing that I need to do is I just go in there and I sit on my computer. And just by being there, I'm going to be productive because, hey, my environment is set up for me to be productive. So that's the first thing. Set up your environment to be productive. And by the way, if you have people in your environment who cause you to be distracted, you might need to actually leave that environment and go up and set up another different environment somewhere else. Now, I remember the first time when I came into this country, I used to love painting and I used to love drawing. And one of the things that happened when I came to this country is that I couldn't set up my environment because I had a smaller space. And in order for me to start painting, I'd have to set up an easel first and then mix my colors and then find the right spot for the right light. And then by the time I've done all that, I'm already an hour in and I'm thinking, man, I'm already tired and I haven't even started painting yet. So this was a stark difference to where I was back home in Zimbabwe, where I had a bigger room. It was mostly sunny. And because of this, I could just leave my colors mixed and just have to kind of put water in them or thinner in them just to make them, more malleable. And I could leave my easel set up already. So when I needed to get back into it, I'll just pick up my palette, clean my brushes a little bit, and then I would really be set up. I just move my easel to the right spot. And then within like 15 or 20 minutes, half an hour max, I'm already started to get painting, right? So at the moment when I had that inspiration, I can just go from inspired, having the idea, to creation. That's what you want. You want to set up an environment where you don't have to take too long to getting into that zone where you are inspired and to getting into creation. Like my house right now here where I am is a very good example of that. I have lights everywhere. I've got lights on the side, I've got lights at the top, I've got lights behind me as well. And in my old place, I used to have to set up lights. I used to have to set up one light here and then one light here and then balance it correctly, make sure that it's not getting too much shadow on this side, make sure it's not getting too much shadow on that side. And then before I even start recording, I had to check that everything is balanced well. And this just ruined my flow completely, because by the time I do that, by the time I do my hair up and everything else, make sure my shirt's ironed, again, it takes you so long just to get into that zone. So I would encourage you, try and make sure that you have an environment that's set up for you to easily get into that flow, easily go from inspiration to creation. So that's the first thing, setting up your environment. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is removing distractions. So again, this is very similar to environment. And oftentimes I'll tell you, if you want to do something creative, a lot of the time it's about maintaining a practice where you are not bombarded by things that you don't need to be bombarded by. So first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I don't really answer any text messages. I don't look at my phone for anything else. I just pick a few certain videos that I like to watch, which are calming and soothing to me. And I just kind of listen to them as I wake up in the morning. I'll stretch and I'll have a shower and I'll make my breakfast. I've got a whole routine that's about maybe 45 minutes to an hour long. Once I've done that, then I can actually get into the business of work. And what this allows me to do is to, again, empty myself so that now I can actually go into the place of being more creative. I can receive more. And even if I'm not being creative per se, I can now receive more. So when people start to send me messages, my team starts to ask me questions about how to solve this problem, I'm ready to take that on because I'm not distracted. You know, I don't feel like someone's just bombarding me with other things. I make sure that I've emptied that basket first. I'm not distracted by anything, and I can actually take on more information. So this key element of removing distractions is very important in order for you to create a level of focus within whatever you're doing. One of the things that I did years ago is that I got rid of my TV, because I noticed that when I got home after, a day's work, I would just sit there and I'd just sit on the TV and I'd just sit there for like 2 hours. And before you knew it, it's like 3 or 4 hours and you're like, oh crap, I haven't done a single thing. I haven't even began to wrap up my day in terms of like work. Sometimes I'm even in my uniform for like an hour or two, right? Because the TV is just there. So I thought, for me personally, I had to remove my TV from my house, and I literally just got rid of it and I sold it. And guess what I did? I set up my environment where the only thing that I have to sit on was my desk and obviously this couch over here. So when I sit on this couch, I know that I'm either relaxing, I'm having a power nap, or I'm reading something. And when I sit on that desk, it means I'm ready to work. I'm ready to get into that mode of creativity and actually productivity. That's how I kind of make sure that my zone is set up to a place where I can be focused. Again, I'm removing that distraction. I've set up my environment and I've removed every possible distraction that can come and influence me. Things like my TV, things like noise. That's just me and how I like to focus. There's another very good story about Eminem, who is a rapper, of course. Now, if you haven't heard of Eminem, he's a rapper. He's a very famous rapper. And he set up his environment to a point where he would schedule his time for productivity. In fact, he would work from 9 to 5, basically. Remember, this is an artist now. Most artists just kind of freestyle it and go, I'm going to work whenever I feel like it. I'm going to wait until I find inspiration. Or maybe I'm going to work at like 3 a.m. in the morning or whatever, 12 o'clock at night. But he said, you know what, I'm going to schedule this creativity thing like a job. And I'm going to work from 9 to 5. I'm going to be in the studio at 9 a.m. and I'm just going to be doing stuff. I'm going to be writing. I'm going to be producing. And by virtue of just being there and removing all distractions, focusing on whatever is gone there to do, it means that he's got no choice but to do that very thing that he went there to do. So removing distractions, creating an environment, removing distractions, and focusing on your particular work that you want to do are two very important elements about finding inspiration and creating inspiration for yourself. The third way of finding inspiration is trying to tap into something else. Now imagine that maybe you're really running dry here. I'm not really feeling any creative juices that are flowing at the moment, and I'm just lacking something. Sometimes what you can do is you can tap into an external source. So I talked to you before about how I wasn't feeling like recording this video. So one of the things that I do is I often journal. I often write things. I write little ideas. I write little things that I think maybe I want to talk about some other time. And when I do that, it gives me the ability to tap into that again when I'm not feeling inspired. So I can then look into that and go, tell me something about creativity, or let me write about philosophy or something like that. Now, of course, we've got tools like AI, which you can also type things and it can give you an idea about trending topics, and you can also use that external source. So there's quite a few ways of finding an idea from an external source, which would allow you to find inspiration, like I said, like AI, Or, you could play music, or you could watch a film, or you could read a book, or you could speak to people, whatever does it for you. There's many ways in which you could find inspiration by tapping into an external source. In fact, the other day I had a friend of mine who messaged me and said, you know what, T, I've got a song that I want to work on. And I thought, you'd be good for laying on some vocal harmonies on this. So I said, yeah, sure, man. You've caught me at the right time, because I was actually thinking of doing a song, but I really didn't have any ideas. Anyway, he sent me that song and he sent me a link, and before I knew it, I was in the process and I was in the flow and I was just creating this song. It turned out quite amazing, actually. And it wasn't because it was planned. It's just something that someone gave to me. So again, tapping into an external source can be something that can be really helpful for you to regain that inspiration, working with other people, listening to other music, or listening to other forms of art to kind of get that inspiration to get you into your own zone of inspiration and creativity. Now let's talk about the fourth thing, which is when we get a little bit deeper. This is when you can get a little bit dark and you're really not feeling inspired. Maybe you even hate creating. I remember a time when, I used to get paid to paint, right? And I remember a time when someone sent me a commission and I was painting it and I was like, man, this really sucks. I'm really not enjoying this. And I left it like a quarter of the way through and I was like, you know what? I'm sorry, I can't take this job anymore because I just don't feel inspired enough to do this. I'm really not inspired. In fact, I'm beginning to hate the thing that I'm doing. And I really had to dig deep and kind of ask myself the question, why am I not enjoying doing the thing that I'm getting paid for that I really love to do? I used to really love to paint, but now I almost hate it. Why is that? So here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how you connect with yourself and really trying to meditate on the deeper reasons maybe why you're not feeling inspired. Because some of the times you really aren't feeling inspired because your purpose is misaligned with your creativity. So you could be using your creativity, right, in the wrong way. And I've heard of people before who were gospel music artists who were saying, man, you know what, I've always wanted to sing in church, but then the moment I got famous and my music became less about God and it became more about just making money, I completely lost the love for my making music. Or you know what, I really used to love producing music for these kind of artists, maybe hip hop artists or rock artists. But then the moment I had to start making music for film and TV, I just completely lost all motivation to do the music completely. So it's not uncommon for you to be misaligned. It's not uncommon for artists to be misaligned in terms of like their creativity and their purpose might be misaligned. I often talked about, finding the balance between what your gifts are, what your talents are, and what your skills are. Because here's what a lot of people don't realize, that in actual fact, your creativity in terms of like the skill of creativity, the music part of it, may just be a skill. But your gift may be performing, or your gift may be helping people. So now if you take someone who's got a skill in music, right, but their gift is in performing, and then you take that same person and then you put them in a classroom and then you say, I want you to teach now. Guess what? That person will be unfulfilled because their skill of creativity is misaligned with their gift of actually performing. Or vice versa, you can take someone who's got the skill of making music, of creativity, but their gift is the gift of teaching. And then you take that same person and then you say, you know what, we know that you're good at music, so we want you to perform now. And then you put them in front of a stage. Guess what? That person is now misaligned with their gifts and their skills. So if you haven't watched the video on gifts, talents, and skills, I think you should watch that video because it's going to really help you to really understand what is your skill. Is music your skill? Is art your skill? And what is your gift? Because people often mistake the skill and the gift. People think that the skill of making music is maybe the gift or the talent, right? So I encourage you to check out that video. I'm going to link it below here so you can check out that video, Gifts, Talent, and Skills. Check that out. It's going to give you a bit more clarity as to how you can align these three things, your gifts, your talents, and your skills, to actually achieve fulfillment in your life and make sure that what you're doing is the right thing. So again, if you're struggling to find inspiration and you feel like, man, I'm not getting it. I just don't enjoy doing the things that I like to do. You might be misaligned in terms of like your purpose and your gifts and your talents and your skills. So check that out. I encourage you to check that out. It's a very good video. I think it's one of the best videos that I've done. And I think it will shed a lot of light in terms of like how you can find your purpose and get realigned with yourself. Now, let's talk about the fifth thing about how to get inspired. I had a member of my team ask me, and he said, how do you stay productive? How do you get motivated to keep doing the same thing, month after month, week after week, year after year, to keep pushing, to keep being so motivated? And, listen, the one truth that I can always come back to is that when you have a clear reason why, as to why you're doing something. Remember, I just spoken about connecting your purpose with your gifts and your talents. The same way that you understand that, once you've gone beyond that, there comes a point when you're going to run out of steam. you're not going to feel like doing it. You're going to feel like, oh, man, you know what? Do I have to do this all the time? Well, if you've reconnected with yourself and you've realigned yourself, the next thing you need to do is just get into a habit of working, right? In other words, just treating the aspect of creativity like work. Just do it, right? That's all I can say to you. Just do it. If you understand the reasons why you're doing what you're doing, and you understand where you need to go and why you want to do what you're doing and how you're going to try to get there, the last thing that you should always do is to just do it. Like I said to you, I didn't feel like doing this video today. And I was like, man, you know what? I've got no ideas at all. I've got no clue how I'm going to do it. And then I began to ask myself the question, but T, why are you doing the videos? Oh, you're doing the videos because you want to reach an audience and you want to teach them more about, music and philosophy and how to find inspiration and how to create even when they're not feeling creative. You want to do all these things. Okay. Why should you do it? Well, you should do it because you've got a team that's relying on you and these people are waiting for you to produce this content so that they can do their job. Okay, cool. So do you think these are enough reasons for you to do this thing? Yes. Yes. Okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to set up this camera. I've got no ideas and I'm just going to do it. And guess what? As I was setting up the camera, as I was making sure that my hair was okay, and I thought, why not just do a video on inspiration? And that's just what came through. So you can overthink things. You can try and procrastinate like I was today. I was trying to figure out what I can do with my time in other areas and I was fixing things all over the house. But what you can't do is not do anything, because let's face it, you can spend time thinking about something, but at the end of the day, if you don't sit down and actually do it, nothing will get done. And all you're going to be left with is a head full of ideas and no products to show. So I encourage you, if you're stuck in a rut and you feel like, man, I'm not inspired, I just don't feel like doing anything, I don't have any clue what I'm going to do, let me just wait until inspiration comes. No, that's the worst thing you could do. If you don't have inspiration, if you're trying to find it, just do it. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've liked this video. I hope it's given you some inspiration. And if you're one of those people that maybe is trying to find inspiration, try setting up your environment so that your environment is suited for you to work and to be creative. And if you're struggling to find focus in your life, try removing those distractions from your life, right? Remove those things that cause you to not pay attention to the thing that you love to do the most. And maybe you've done all that and you still can't find inspiration, then maybe you need to tap into an external source, tap into other things that you might inspire you to create something new, something different, and go down a different route, a different path. And if you still don't feel inspired, then hey, try and reconnect with yourself. Realign yourself with your purpose and your talents and your gifts. And lastly, just do it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I do one of these every single week. So if you like this video and you found it valuable, then please do me the favor of subscribing to our channel. Let me know what you think. And you can leave a comment in the section here about how you find inspiration and how you manage to stay inspired even when you don't feel inspired. I hope you guys found it useful. And if it was, then do share it with someone else that you think might find it helpful to them as well. So thanks again. I'll see you in a week's time. Love you as always. Take care. Bye-bye.